So today, everybody, we're going through free SEO tools that you can use from home. Welcome to Lockdown 2.0, as they're calling it. So no better opportunity than right now than to pick up some SEO tools and do some DIY learning on ultimately something from which is a really worthwhile investment. It's an investment which will stay with your business likely for years. So unlike a transactional method of marketing like PPC, SEO, as you may know, can take a few months, sometimes only a few weeks to kick in. So by really focusing some energy on this right now, you're going to see some really good results heading into the back end of this year. So today's schedule will be looking at local business tools, reporting and analysis, keyword research, as well as content ideation also, so how to come up with different content ideas for your business, technical SEO, and offsite, which some of you may know as backlinks, and then some links to some of the tools themselves. So first of all, local businesses. Now, the most important one here, especially as we head into this second lockdown, is Google My Business. If you haven't already claimed your page, then make sure you do claim your page. Once you have claimed your page, you want to make sure that all of your COVID information is updated. Are you still serving people? Are you not? When are you reopening? Do you have any messages to share with people relating to COVID-19, which is soon about to be COVID 2021 at this rate? So you want to make sure that everything is up to date with that as much as you possibly can. And not only your opening hours and any core key information, but see if you can start generating more reviews through to your Google My Business page. Directing old and existing customers through to your page is a really good way to increase keyword frequency among reviews. I want you to imagine that you're a plumber and you work in Essex. Now, if somebody leaves you a review saying, I couldn't find any other plumbers in Essex to come and fix my boiler last minute. Thank you so much, Dave. I don't know why it's Dave the plumber, but it is apparently. Thank you so much, Dave. You've been a legend. Now, having a review like that on your Google My Business increases the frequency of keywords, including plumber in the locality that you serve, as well as other related phrases like boiler repair, from which Google's algorithm relates through to the primary subject of plumbing. So the main thing that you need to focus on here, and I cannot stress enough, is making sure that your Google My Business page is as fully up to date as possible. It will give you a progress bar to ensure that you're aiming to hit 100% of completion as well. So really hone in on that. It's a free tool as well. Google gets a lot of strife in the media, but they have a hell of a lot of free tools for businesses to utilize. And if they do utilize them, the benefits can be quite profound. Reporting and analysis is the next thing. Now, obviously, if you get stuck on this side of things, then you're more than welcome to contact your local Nettle studio who have some development knowledge when it comes to setting up proper reporting and analytics. Now, this is one of the most forgotten about areas, really, which is quite bizarre when you think that you need to know if something is worth your while. You need to see visible and tangible improvements over time. And this is, once again, another free tool from Google from which you can verify, especially if you already have analytics set up. And if you have an easy to use website like WordPress, you can verify this very easily. So with Google Search Console, it's essentially the heartbeat of Google. It's the brain of Google and how Google understands your website. Not only will it tell you a large range of keywords that your business is currently ranking for, but it will also tell you ones which you never thought to look for. Because it's really difficult for somebody to say to you, what keywords do you want to rank for? Because in reality, every business has thousands of potential keywords from which Google already thinks you're relevant for, but you may not know. And this should also assist you when it comes to content creation also. Once you're in Google Search Console, you'll see on the left-hand side a few of these key tabs, one of which is performance, which will be able to show you your overall visibility on Google's search engine over time. You'll be able to see how Google is interpreting your website to make sure that there's no errors on it from Google's perspective. And you can submit sitemaps through to Google, which ultimately allow Google to navigate to your website correctly and then index them. So show your pages on Google's search engine results. So really important to get this set up. You can't really do anything wrong. You can't break anything once this is verified. And it's got lots of good little tool bits on there for you to learn about each section. And there is a lot of YouTube videos as well, walking you through different areas of this. But once again, another free tool, whether or not you're doing SEO yourself, or you have an agency doing it on your behalf, or Nettle Studios doing it on your behalf. Either way, this gives you a no BS overview, which cannot be manipulated around how things are going. So a really good way to quantify your return on investment. Then Google Analytics, once again, another free tool from Google. If Google were charging for this, similar analytic platforms cost hundreds of pounds a month. So this is something that you should have on your website. Not only should you have it on there showing live visitors, which you can now see in real time with Google Analytics, so you can see what pages people are visiting and what pages people are finding useful, but you should also be setting up goal conversions, because goal conversions will allow you to attribute value to investing in organic search. So you will know how many people are inquiring or purchasing products from your website based on if they're from social media, if they're from paid biddable like Google AdWords, or if they're from organic search, somebody looking in the organic search results for your business. So the way to set this up is on screen. There's once again loads of other guides, and Nettle Studios will be more than happy to help you get this set up if you're stuck. But you should go into your analytics once it's verified, click on to reports, go to audience, overview, acquisition, conversions, and then set up your goal conversion. A goal conversion could be set up to a thank you page. So after somebody inquires or clicks a phone number, it marks as a conversion in your analytics. Once again, there's no point doing any digital activity if you're not tracking success. This is what differentiates SEO and online marketing to be a significantly better channel than investing in the local pages or the little blue book or a billboard, which is completely unquantifiable in terms of performance, whereas everything online should be quantifiable and you should be able to measure its success over time. So moving swiftly on to Google Tag Manager. Now, this is definitely something that, unless you're slightly tech savvy, you're going to want to go to your developers or go to your local Nettle Studio to help you with. This involves installing third-party tracking onto websites. There's a lot of reluctance around this form of tracking in the market right now. Oh, I'm hearing myself on the audio. Let's see if I can mute people. It's horrible hearing your own voice, especially a voice like mine. It's all tinny. I blame it on having too many children and being kept up late. So once you've got Google Tag Manager installed, you'll be able to then start tracking people after they leave your website, for example. So one method of installing cookie tracking allows somebody who leaves your website who doesn't inquire to then be served your advert when they're reading the Daily Mail or when they're reading The Sun online. They will suddenly be retargeted with your advert, which is sometimes why you get that eerie feeling that somebody's watching you online after you've talked about something in your house and quickly looked at that holiday for after lockdown, and then every bloody website that you're on thereafter is another holiday ad trying to sell you an advert. And that is down to tracking cookies through a user's visiting your website. So then moving on to keyword research and content ideation. So coming up with content ideas and making sure that you're doing it in the right way. There are some good tools out there. And on the subject of tracking, if you do use this next one, Ubersuggest, expect to see the face of Neil Patel on every website that you visit thereafter. He is one of the most aggressive SEO marketers in the world. Possibly too aggressive in my opinion, but he does have a very nice free tool that you can use. You can put in keywords, it will come out with ideas relating to that subject. So as you can see on screen here, if we were to put in digital marketing, it says that there's 22,000 searches per month, and you can see the trends of that as well over time. So you know when that subject is most popular and when you should be creating content around that particular subject. Now, if you've been in business for a few years, you could take your primary subject and map that. If you're feeling quite nerdy and data-led, you can map that against previous year's performance to see if your spikes in revenue matches seasonal demand. And you can zoom in on all of this data and go as granular as to what day people are most likely to search for chocolate truffles in London, and you'll be able to get that data. So then you know when to sell chocolate truffles to people in London on that exact day, because that's when people are most likely to buy it. So tracking out all of that content really does allow you to plan things in advance. And once again, instead of that age-old, hey, what keywords do you want to rank for? And all those spammy, crappy emails that everybody gets from these dodgy SEO companies from all over the world saying, we'll make you #1 on Google for 5 keywords. Absolute nonsense. Any SEO company promising to get you for a precise number of keywords to position one within any time period is either doing things in a malicious way, which could get your whole website removed from Google, or they're just there to take your money. So there is no silver bullet. There's no shortcut to this. You just have to focus on delivering good quality content to your customers at timely intervals, at times when they're looking to use it most. Then we have, free tools again. This isn't really a tool. This is more of a trick that you can do. But if you were to start writing how to do SEO into Google, Google will predict based on what the trillions of other people around searches around the world have been completed. They will predict what you're about to search for. All of those Google homes in your houses, which are nice and cheap, all of this information feeding into Google's algorithm ultimately to make it more contextually relevant when you're searching for something. Don't forget, Google's main aim is to give people the answer to a question, or to give them what they're looking for before they even know that they're looking for it. And this is how Google does that. So you can see what these long tail phrases are. Once you know what these long tail phrases are, if I wanted to rank top for number 1 for SEO, I would be writing how to do SEO, how to do SEO yourself, how to do SEO keyword research, how to do SEO on WordPress. I'll be creating all of this content within my website, because the same way that Wikipedia ranks so prominently on Google is because it is the master of its own subjects. So if you want to be the #1 for plumbers, then you need to have lots of content on boiler repair, lots of content on what types of taps you can fix and common faults with those taps themselves, or how to bleed radiators. Google knows that all of that content is relevant for plumbing. So the more that you provide the internet, ultimately, the more you will be rewarded over time. And you can repeat this strategy over YouTube and Bing as well. Google Trends is basically what that Ubersuggest tool piggybacks off for its trend analysis, but gives you a lot more granular information. It's once again a free tool. I like to play around with it and see what companies on the high street might be failing in the future. Because if you search companies like Debenhams on Google Trends, you can see a steady decline over the last 10 years of people searching for it online. And if you do that with Thomas Cook and other big brands who have fallen off the chart recently, it's another interesting way to see how these trends can fall into play. But if you want to map out a content strategy for the next 12 months, once again, you can see when it's most likely that people are going to be buying advent calendars for chocolate. You can see when it's most likely that people are going to be buying sorry cards, probably around Valentine's Day, for their partners. And then you can predict when you want to target those people with those adverts over time. So all of this is free information that you can and should be using. And don't forget, we'll leave some links to this at the end as well. And then a friend of ours in the SEO world created a tool called alsoasked.com. I struggle pronouncing the S, the K here, which makes it sound like a completely different website. But also asked.com is a very good website when it comes to exploring all of these content ideas, and it helps you visualize how Google interprets the subject. So if you put in there plumbing or boiler repair, it will come out with every question relating to boiler repair that people on Google have ever asked. Now, if you answer those questions and put those within your website and structure them in the correct way, or just put them anywhere within your website, of course, your website is going to be more authoritative. Why wouldn't it be? Because you are adding value to the internet. So before I hand over to Olivia, there's one thing that I cannot stress enough, and from being in this SEO world for over 10 years, Google and Bing have both come out and said that SEO is the #1 marketing strategy to master in the next 10 years. It's only going to get more important and more prevalent as we move forward. We've already seen the death of Yellow Pages books, and we're going to see the death of the rest of those little local directories. And we're going to see the end of TripAdvisor soon enough. We're going to see a lot more reliance on organic search visibility, especially as more than 80% of people in the UK use Google for their searching right now. So it's so important to invest time in this. And if you're not willing to invest the time, then obviously get an agency. But even if you get an agency, even if you work with Nettle's SEO team and our SEO department on something like this, you should be doing more on top. Leave us as the experts to do the technical things that you cannot do, but you are the experts in your companies. So you need to be getting everything out of your head and onto a website. There are even some really good transcription tools out there. So you can transcribe and just speak aloud how to do certain things within your sector and area onto your phone, and then just edit it if you're not much of a wordsmith. But the more content that you add to your websites, the better results you're going to get. And then that would allow technical SEO experts like ourselves who know development, who know code, to do the things that we wouldn't expect you to do. So, yep, I'm going to hand over to Olivia to go dive straight into that technical SEO piece now for those of you who are willing to give it a crack. And over to you, Liv.
Thanks, Luke. And a couple of obviously we spoke about before, technical SEO is probably the hardest area, and which is why you probably use Nettle Studios in order to help you with it. I think everyone can obviously create a website on WordPress, but actually optimizing that is difficult, which is why we saw a query earlier on the auto suggest for Google, which is how to do SEO yourself. But in terms of technical SEO, there's a few tools here I'm going to go through that you can actually quite easily look at the tools and have a look at your site and almost audit your site using them. And you could actually put that to, so you could audit the site and then put that to your local, Nettle SEO studio if you're working with them and say, I can see this on this tool, can you fix it please? Or find out, why it's not as fast as it might be. So first one is Page Speed Insights, another tool from Google. So as we said before, Google offers a lot of free tools which are super useful. And as you can see on the left-hand side, I've actually put Amazon into Page Speed Insights, and believe it or not, it's not the fastest, but it's kind of medium speed. But what Page Speed Insights does is it gives you simple scores basically to highlight if your page speed is bad, average or good. There is more information in there, which is pretty technical, but all you need to know is there's a red, there's an amber and there's a green. If your site is in the red or the amber, you might want to look at optimizing speed, because speed is so important nowadays. People being on their mobiles, people not having Wi-Fi, for example, when they're out and about. Google is optimized for mobile now, so you need to ensure your speed is good. And there's a new algorithm update, which is essentially something that Google is going to focus on in 2021, which looks at user experience and specifically within that speed and the speed people are able to navigate on your site. So have a look at your site, pop it in after this webinar, go into page speed insights. All you have to do here is pop your URL in there and click test, and then it comes back with your result. And then another tool, which I'm going to show you on the next slide, is GT Metrics. This one's super useful as well. What you can do here is, let me just show you. So you basically pop your URL in again, and it gives you all these different things. But what you can focus on is the page speed score, which is the performance. This is similar to page speed insights from Google, but essentially it gives you a score, a low, which would be red, medium, which would be amber, and then high, which would be green. And then there's a recommendation, which is, you can't see the whole of it there, but it gives you recommendations on what you can do to improve speed. Now, I'm not suggesting this is something you would do, but what you can do is you can download these reports, and you can download it before, and then you can do a comparison for before and after. And this is something that we do at Nettle Studios when we take on new sites. So we essentially look at their speed and we optimize it, and then we show the before and after. For example, this is showing Amazon that sort of fully loaded time is 9.7 seconds. I know that Google says if anything takes more than sort of one second to load, people will jump off. It significantly reduces the number of people staying on your site and the bounce rate, which is the people that land on your site and then jump off straight away. So 2 easy, really simple technical SEO tools for page speed, essentially. And they're not simple to implement the changes, but it's simple to take a look yourself to see what you could be doing. And then Google mobile friendly test. This tool's been around a while, and I think a lot of people know of it. If your site isn't already mobile friendly, it should be. Every site should be responsive now. There's nothing worse when you try and go onto a website on your mobile and you have to try and like zoom in and move around. Every site should be mobile friendly now. And if you use a content management system like WordPress or any of the popular ones out there, you should have a mobile friendly site. But essentially, all you need to do on the mobile friendly test, again, is pop in a URL, and it essentially identifies, it will say, yes, your site is mobile friendly, which it probably should do. If it doesn't, then you really need to look at getting that fixed as soon as possible. And then it will identify any mobile usability issues. So by usability issues on mobile, we would have all experienced them in our day-to-day life. You've probably experienced a mobile usability issue today. So you've probably gone on your phone and you've gone to sort of buy something online, for example, because shops are shut, and you've gone to buy something online, you tried to click add to cart, and the button doesn't work, or the button's too close to another button, which means that when you click on that button, actually it's clicked on a different button that you weren't meant to click on. Or, for example, the text might be too small and you can't read it. So mobile usability issues are there every single day, and every site will have them, but the best thing you can do is try and fix them, because that will indirectly improve your SEO. And then you can also see what the page actually looks like on mobile. So there's an example of a screenshot here, but you can actually see what your website looks like on a mobile device. But one of the best things I would recommend is to also actually use your mobile device regularly to look at your website. So potentially, if you've got a website, don't just leave it and never look at it. Sort of go onto it every week or so on your mobile, just to see what it looks like, how things are working, and have a little play around. And then finally, for the technical SEO tools, we've got a rich results test. So this is essentially a test, again, where you just put your URL in and it tells you if your page or site is eligible for rich results. Now, rich results are, we've spoken about these on some previous sessions if you've been to them, but essentially they're like enhanced results that show up in Google search results. So these, for example, can be like reviews showing up, a featured snippet, which is a larger result than the normal result in Google. But what rich results do is they enable you to have a better search result visibility. If you don't need to know how to implement this, but if you can just check if your site is eligible for rich results, then if it's not, speak to your local SEO studio and they will help you get it eligible for these results. And then we're going to go on to offsite and backlinks. So offsite SEO, essentially, that includes sort of backlinks, your reviews, any social signals, anything you're doing on social media, reputation. This is super important, as well as the content and the technical SEO. But offsite SEO is something that you can be doing yourself. So you could be working with local charities, you can be partnering with other local businesses in order to get backlinks, collecting reviews on your Google My Business page. Reviews are so important for local businesses, so that's part of offsite SEO as well. So a few backlink checker tools. The backlinks are essentially any link that comes into your site from a different website. So if you've got a link from a supplier that you're working with, if you're a local business and you have suppliers or you have relationships with other local businesses, speak to them, try and get a link on there, try and get your website on their supplier list page, for example. And then so backlink checker tools, we got Google Search Console, another Google tool, which is really useful. We spoke about Google Search Console earlier with the different things that you can see in there, like performance and if your site is appearing in the search results. But there's also a nice little section in there called links, which people don't use enough, but it can be quite useful because it will show you the most linked pages, so the pages that people are linking to on your site, and also it will show you the websites that are linking to your site. So that can be really useful to see who you've got links from. And then there's a tool called Moz SEO, which is another one out there, which has been around for a while, a bit like sort of Neil Patel. There's a lot of free SEO tools out there, and there's a lot you can pay for. But for you guys, if you want to have a look at your own website and your backlinks, it'd be worth just using a few of these free tools, which are quite limited, but you can get some insights from them. What you can do with Moz is essentially you can just sign up with your email address, and it lets you check 10 websites or URLs per month. So if you've only got one website, you should be fine. But what you can do in Moz is pop your website in there, and you can have a look at all the links. You can have a look at something called spam score. Although I wouldn't pay too much attention to that, but because essentially it will tell you if you've got a lot of links from quite spammy websites, which can be useful, but Google generally ignores most spammy links now anyway. But it is quite useful. And there's something else you can do in Moz, which you can compare your link profile to your competitors. So if you are a plumber in Bristol, for example, and you know who your competitors are, so other plumbers in the same area or the specific area in Bristol, you could put your website URL in there, and you can also put theirs, and you can compare what links they have that you don't. And then what you can do is try and target to get links from those other sites. And then Neil Patel, who we spoke about earlier, another one where he's also got a backlink checker tool you can have a look at. It's worth using a few different tools that are available, because all of these different tools and software have their own database of links. So if you check Moz, for example, that might find a link that the Neil Patel backlink tool doesn't. And with these free tools, you might not get everything, but it's worth using all of them to try and build a picture of the kind of links you are getting, if they're from good websites, local websites, or if they're all from spammy websites in a different country, for example. And then there's the Majestic backlink analyzer as well, which you can, if you have Google Chrome, you can add an extension on your Google Chrome for Majestic, and that will enable you to analyze your backlinks and your backlink profile. Google My Business. So aside from backlinks for offsite SEO, there's also reviews, super important, your reputation. What you can do within Google My Business is create a shortened URL in order to get people to leave reviews. So you can be putting that on your Facebook page, or sending it to your customers in email once they've used your service or bought a product. I would say if you do have, I know a lot of local small businesses have their Facebook page pages that you manage and you get a lot of reviews on there, I do think it's worth, and it's very important to also look at getting Google reviews. It's probably more important if you're looking to rank for SEO for keywords. If your business is just word of mouth and sort of like, I have a friend who's a hairdresser and it works really well for her just to have all of her reviews on Facebook. She puts photos on there and gets a lot of business that way. But if you think you need to rank well for SEO in Google search results, then collect those Google My Business reviews by getting a shortened URL and sending it to your customers. And then SEO plugins. So if you have WordPress or any other content management system that you have created your website on, there are a lot of plugins, free plugins as well, that you can use to help with your search engine optimization of your website. It won't do everything, and you probably will need help from your local SEO studio or need to look more into it. These tools can't do everything for you, but they can help with the basics. So Yoast SEO is pretty standard for people that have WordPress on their site. It's the sort of basic setup, and it's really easy and simple to use, and it will essentially just flag to you if there's any problems, or it will tell you how to add SEO titles and descriptions to your pages. So that's what shows up in the Google search results. And it's there for basic on-page optimization essentially. And it can also help, it will automatically create a sitemap for you. Sitemap is essentially giving Google a map of your website, which helps it be crawled and indexed. So if you don't have it already and you have a website, I'd recommend just adding the free Yoast SEO plugin, just because it might be useful. It's not going to do everything, but it will definitely help you if you're doing some basic optimization on your website as well. And then Smush. This is a relatively new tool. Well, not new tool, but it's being developed all the time. But it's essentially quite a good tool for WordPress to increase your site speed, improve it. Essentially, it's free image optimization. So we're always telling people, when you upload your images, optimize them first, which means make them smaller. People are always uploading images to their site at like 10 megabytes, which is super huge, and then slows the speed of the site down. But what this tool does is essentially you just add the plugin to your website, and then it optimizes 50 images at a time. So it will resize, compress, and make your images smaller, so that improves your site speed. This tool's really high rated. There is also additional versions of it, like paid versions, like there is for Yoast. But for basic optimization, you could just use the free version. So here we're pretty much finished now, but I wanted to give you a lowdown, and we're going to send through the slides so that you have links to all of these tools. But I wanted to give you a bit of an indication of how the usability of each of these tools and how easy they might be, and whether you could go and use it yourself. So Google My Business, every business should have that. I think that's the first one you should go and set up if you don't already. And also Optimize. I think a lot of businesses set up their Google My Business page and then they just leave it. You actually do need to optimize it. You could add posts to it, add images, anything to help improve the Google My Business page. And there's a lot of support from Google out there on how you can optimize that page. And then Google Analytics and Search Console, I'd say they are a little bit harder to use. You might be able to find some tutorials to find the basic analytics data and the basic things you should be looking for, but they are a little bit more difficult, but you should definitely have them and get some help on using them. Google Tag Manager, I wouldn't recommend trying to look into this yourself, but I would recommend potentially speaking to, if you're a Nettle customer, your studio manager, at the additional tracking that you could do via Tag Manager. So for example, if you want to track if someone's watching a video on your website, or you want to track if they're downloading a PDF, Google Tag Manager can be useful for that. You can pretty much track anything on your website. So if you don't feel like you're getting any return on your SEO spend, or if you don't feel like you're getting a return on the money you spend getting your website built, you probably are. You're probably just not tracking it properly. So I would definitely speak to the studio managers about getting all your analytics installed. Ubersuggest, autocomplete, also asked, Answer the Public, and Google Trends. These are all the keyword research ideation tools. These are really easy to use. You don't need to necessarily be an SEO to find these. One thing I would recommend is that if you're looking to target keywords, don't just go for the keywords that say that they've got 100,000 searches a month, because it's, as a small business, or if your website isn't fully established, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to rank very quickly for that. So speak to your local studio about the keywords you should be targeting, but also try and look for low search volume, low competition keywords initially, just to get you started, and then you can start going for the harder ones. But any questions that people ask, which are on the tools also ask and answer the public, you should be able to answer with the content on your website. And then, so the technical tools, so page speed insights and GT metrics, I would say they're not easy. They're easy to put your URL in and test, but they're not easy to necessarily read the information from it. But you could just do that if you wanted to see how fast your site is. You can easily put it in there and have a look at it, what's showing up in terms of the score. Mobile friendly test, that's really easy, just gives you an indication of whether your site is mobile friendly. Yoast and Smush and Moz Link Explorer, they're really easy as well. So add these plugins to your website, and they'll help optimize it pretty quickly. And then the backlink tools are quite easy as well. The Majestic one's probably a little bit harder, but I would recommend you all go and have a look at some of these tools and just have a play around. You probably just need, if your business is shut now because of COVID, why not spend a bit of time having a play around with these tools and seeing, if you can get your head around SEO a bit more. And that's it. What we'll do is send through the slides so that everyone's got the link to these tools, and then a bit of homework to go away and have a look at them. I think we'll probably open up to see if anyone wants to come off mute and have any questions now, or if there's any questions in the chat. Is there, Luke?
I've answered most of the questions in the chat, but if anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask us a question, then feel free. Between me and Olivia, we've got over 20 years of SEO experience, so you'll probably struggle to find many more experienced SEOs in the country. So feel free to ask us any SEO questions that you may have. It doesn't have to be in particular about what we've just covered. So feel free, if you want to, you could leave a little message in the chat, and then we can find you on the screen and unmute you. If you want us to quickly inspect one of your websites or give you any insights on your websites, then now is a good opportunity to do that also. The chat box is at the bottom of the screen, just so you know.
I think someone had to jump off as well, but just to let you guys know that there will be a recording of this as well, so don't worry about that if you want a link to it or you want to rewatch it again.
So Alison.
Yes, please, Alison Page Marketing.
Liv, do you want to find Alison on the list and unmute her, and I will quickly run a backlink check on the website and a quick audit on it.
Yeah. 1 second.
Okay.
No, I think she's unmuted. Are you unmuted, Alison?
I don't know. Am I? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry you can't see me, but unfortunately I don't have a camera on my desktop, and my laptop
Don't worry.
is currently out of action.
No worries at all. Okay, so Alison, I'm just you should be able to see my screen on which I brought up your website.
I can.
Great. Okay, so if you're in particular, are you targeting local businesses within your region from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, so I'm targeting SMEs who are about 5 to 15 employees who aren't large enough to require a marketing resource.
Yeah. So the key thing here would be to look at how you're aligning your website, because right now you should see where my cursor is. So if I hover over here, the main thing that you're telling Google that your website is about is welcome to Alison Page Marketing. So it's not giving a granular location. So Google's going to struggle to know what locality you're going to be serving. So for example, if you're wanting to target businesses within Luton, because you're more likely to convert customers from Luton, then you want to change this to perhaps outsourced marketing Luton, or digital marketing, or marketing director Luton. And you can use the keyword research tools to find exactly the right phrase there and the right combination of phrases. But this homepage should be generic enough to cover what you are offering in 2 lines or less. And then going into this page, one thing I would say for all websites is don't worry too much about banner images and headers as much as possible, because it's a vanity thing that we all do. We all feel like we need to dress up our websites to make them really pretty. In reality, you know, the main purpose of online and digital is serving people the information that they're looking for as fast as possible. So I would focus more on having this as something that we call the F-shaped theory. So you would end up landing onto a core page like this. What do I want to find out? I want to find out what you offer. I probably want to find out your reviews and why I should use you. So maybe bringing through a review or testimonial or your Google reviews through to this page, a call to action without me having to scroll down the page, because majority of people don't scroll down pages. So this is your shop window as it stands. So you'd want your call to action around here. You'd want reviews and maybe a little video on here talking about who you are and what you have to offer. That's how I would position it. I had a similar website about 15 years ago, and that's exactly what I did. So it was literally a video of me talking about what I could offer a business here, because that increases something called dwell time as well. So when people did find me for marketing within my region, they watched the video for 2 minutes, which increased the authority of that page, because it's telling Google that this is a good result because somebody has clicked on it and stayed on it. Whereas if people click on it and then leave, then that tells Google you haven't given them the information that they're looking for. So I would follow that little micro pitch cycle and go with review, testimonial, what it is I offer, who I am, and then close with find out more, book your free consultation. And then for that, I would use something which I'll show you now, which is a free tool, which synchronizes with your calendar, which is really, really fantastic tool to use for most businesses out there, called Calendly. Now, what this allows you to do is within a couple of clicks, create an appointment system for your business where people can book in a 20-minute consultation call with yourself. And it accesses your own calendar. It only shows the available time, and you can put in some logic in there as well. It's completely free, the free version of it at least. If it's got a little Calendly logo, but it is really, really a fantastic tool. I think the guys over at Eargo in the United States use it, so I'll use this as an example for you. These guys have just floated on the US stock market for £1 billion, as you do. This is nice for some, isn't it? So on here somewhere it was anyway. I'll have to find another example, but it was on there. But you can click on it, it accesses the calendar, you book an appointment, it then sends email and text reminders to the person so that it makes sure that they're going to get in contact with you when they say. So I would just make that a bit more local focused. Also talking about maybe some of the regions that you serve, as well as the overall subjects. And then each one of these should be a H2, and I would have separate pages for this. So marketing support has its own page, linking through to that page, and maybe 400 to 500 words of content. Once again, trying to be the expert within your field, when Google can only ever travel into your website and follow links and take information from it. So it can't do anything else apart from that. Sorry, Liv.
I was just saying, I'd also recommend, you've got lots of blogs there, Alison. It looks like you're posting on your website. I would recommend, when you've built out those service pages, if you don't have them already, whenever you create a blog, as far up as the page as possible, link to one of your service pages. So if you look at that blog quite high up, I don't think you've got a link back to one of the service pages.
No, I haven't. No, it's not something I'd even thought about doing.
Yeah, so that's called internal linking, because what you're doing is you're creating this blog content on your site in order to improve the authority, and hopefully you're sharing this blog content on your social media or with your clients as well. And if you're sharing this content, other people might share it, or you'll build up authority if you're targeting keywords from this blog content. So what you want is, you essentially want all of the authority to go through to to your service page, because if you're targeting marketing support in X location, that the page you want to rank for that is probably the marketing support service page. So what you need to do is try and build as many links to that page as possible, and you can do that through your internal linking as well, and making sure link to important pages from your header, your main navigation, which you have at the top, and your footer as well.
Lovely.
And then final thing for you, and then we'll move on to the next website because we've got a few on there, is your backlink portfolio right now. So a list of all of the websites pointing at you. If you are targeting businesses within Luton, then try to get local Luton websites pointing to your website. If you are targeting marketing as a primary keyword, then you need to go onto some marketing forums and some marketing groups and websites and try to build links from those back to your website. So if you can imagine, if you create this really good, interesting blog article about a certain, how much money can you save by hiring a marketing director remotely, as an example, you could then go into UK business forums, and when somebody's saying, how much does a remote marketing director cost? You could say, check out this link to this article I wrote exactly on this subject. And that is some of the best form of link acquisition that you could do, because people will click on those links, that will activate them, which will increase their authority and therefore increase your importance. In that scenario, you want to get as many links from marketing or business orientated websites and Luton orientated websites as you can. And then in the future, when somebody searches for marketing in Luton, you'll come up top.
Fantastic. You're a star. Thank you very much. That's absolutely incredible.
No worries. So next one, we got trademark aquatics. Let's load this up.
If we don't manage to get through all of these, what I'll do is I'll note them down now and send through a few tips for the sites after.
Yeah, for sure. I'll try and blast through as quick as we can on some of these. So trademark aquatics, if you want to mute yourself if you can and say, give us a hello, that'd be awesome. So it looks like primary keywords are going to be aquarium chillers, based on what we can see here. So what I would say is that you need to follow through with that throughout the website. So right now your H1, which is basically what you're telling Google is on this website, I think might be home. Yeah, so your H1 tag is home right now. So your combination here is you're optimizing for aquarium chillers, which is in the title, but then home as well. So you want to change your title home to buy aquarium chillers online from trademark aquatics. That's what I would do. And then this is your H2, so your second header, which is great because you've got aquarium chillers in here. And then whenever you mention the word aquarium chillers, I would link through to the page where you have those products, if it is that you're trying to sell. So just noting here, Techo chillers, if that is the keyword, then that's what you should focus on. But I'm getting a bit of a mix here between Techo chillers and aquarium chillers. So you need to stick with the keywords that you're going for, and not have too much variety. So if this is Techo aquarium chillers, then you'd want to link from your homepage whenever you mention aquarium chillers through to this page. And then whenever you mention the TK9000 model, you will want to link through to the TK9000 model page within your site, because Google operates as spiders, which has to follow links to follow through to those pages.
Sorry, I just wanted to add to that, Luke. Just looking at this page for me, this feels very unreadable. So that background with that copy is, for someone who doesn't have great eyesight, that's not very readable. So that's the first thing I would do, is try and look at either changing this background or changing the color of the copy or something as well. And that's just a usability factor there that I think could be improved on this page.
But what I would say is that niches like this can do extremely well in SEO if done correctly, because there is not going to be a huge amount of competition, and therefore executed correctly, then this is the type of website I would say would do extremely well. The other thing is here, we've got things like penguins and lobsters, but I think if I'm correct, this is just one big image. So Google can't crawl this because it's an image, whereas ideally you would have links through to the page. I would scrap this slideshow entirely and favor just boxes of the different things that you're trying to push. There's an interesting fact that I think it's only 2% of people ever get to slide 3, and I think it's only 10% of people only ever get to slide 2. So whatever you're hiding in those other slides is completely pointless, because it's literally just there for you, waiting for it to roll through the pages, or for me when I'm auditing it. But nobody else is ever seeing those messages. So you want to try and push those as clear and as clean as possible. Removing the slideshow will also increase your website speed as well. So that's worth noting. But it's once again a really, really good website that could work very well if done correctly. Right, we're going to move on to Petra, and if you get any other questions relating to these, feel free to email seo@nettle.com and we'll try our best to respond as well. So brand photography for pet sector businesses. So let's have a look what we got here. Brand photography, this looks like it has some best practice SEO on here. Whose is this one? Petra?
Hello.
Hey Petra, how you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. So this is like speed dating for SEO, this is. So brand photography for pet businesses. Yeah, your H1 is on point. Is this a new website, Petra?
It was done a year ago.
Okay, cool. So I would be looking to build up some more link authority, but I would say that the structure of this website is actually quite nicely done. I think there's a lot of good things on here. I would look at, once again, internal linking as a priority. I would then also go on to also asked and go pet.
Just done it, yeah.
Great. And then you want to bring forward as many of these questions onto your homepage as you can, which are related to brand, which is the important thing here. So if they're relatable to brand, I would have an FAQ on here with a list of those questions related to pet brand photography. Or the other classic here is go pet brand photography, which is a very niche phrase, I must say. And then looking at who ranks top. So I would then change your keyword to commercial dog photography. Or commercial animal photography? Commercial.
There is a difference between commercial photography and what I do, so that's why I went with brand.
Okay, and do you think that is an obvious thing for somebody searching? Or do you think they would go, because there's one easy way that you could check that, which is commercial pet photography, excuse my spelling, there we go. So if we search this, first of all, and then we scroll down to the bottom of the page, you can see what people have gone on to search for after searching for this. So you can see that people have then gone dog photographer or dog photography near me. So interesting that pet often goes into the granular version of what the animal is. So it could be commercial cat photography or commercial ferret photography, or whatever it is you're selling. So I would actually look at doing pet photography, commercial pet photography as the main thing, and then have a sub-service page for each pet or type of animal that you do to capture those really granular searches, which will also make you more prominent and relevant for the main side. So that's an interesting one. I would say maybe ping us an email and we'll maybe try and find a couple of extra things on that, because it's...
because see, my issue is that usually people don't understand what I'm doing. And I've been trying to educate people in the past year for this, and I basically do photography for like dog trainers, pet sitters, vets, anything like this that is pet related. But people think I do pet photography, and obviously pet photography is different than what I do, because I don't do photography just about the animals that is involved in that business. I do it for the owner of the business.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's really searching for that. So I would probably say that SEO is probably not your avenue, and I would probably go down more of a Facebook targeting and Instagram targeting approach on dog walkers, from which you can do via granular targeting in that form and format. So I would actually say website's looking really, really good. I think it's more of a brand awareness targeting piece, from which I think you'll get a huge amount of success from Facebook targeting, something that we obviously know a lot about as well. But do you do much Facebook?
Yes.
Right, okay, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok even. TikTok advertising is extremely cheap right now, and is some of the highest performing ad channels that I've seen. So it's definitely worth having a look at there.
Okay.
But from an SEO perspective, I would say that there's not enough search for it to warrant spending all of your time on it. So just keep having a good website, and that'd be the best thing.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Petra. So Shire planning, we'll do a couple more, and then after we'll ping some emails. Hello, wait, sorry, who said that?
I'm Jane.
Hey Jane, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay, so what is it? So planning applications, something that I know well about because I'm currently trying to get my attic converted. So are you nationwide?
I'm not. I'm targeted around Monmouthshire, Herefordshire, and the surrounding counties, which I do state on my website.
Okay, so once again, we'll start with your main title up here, which is Shire planning right now. So which is heavily focused on brand. I'm just going to mute you while I talk because of the didgeridoo in the background. There we go. So which is heavily focused on brand. And then this H1, which I think is okay because you've got planning in there. But I would then go into, we offer these services on the homepage. So we support you with planning applications, and I'll probably lead with planning applications and then feed off the back of that. So, and cover each one of these areas. But I would put this more prominently on the homepage so that people can access it straight away. So maybe make this not as prominent because this is everything that I'm seeing right now, and maybe have each service as a box going on here with a text link pointing through to each one of those services, and then increase the frequency of the use of the locality that you're serving, because right now the homepage is the only thing on there that Google can crawl is Shire planning, keep planning simple, and that's it. It doesn't say about any of the other things that you do unless they travel through the website. So bring a lot more information through to the website. Squarespace is fantastic at making really visual, pretty, easy to use websites. But it's easy to get distracted between something that's visually attractive like this, which would work probably very well from a PPC perspective and sending people through. But within your area, that will end up being very expensive compared to if you did. I was actually doing planning as a friend for one of my neighbors who was launching a website similar to this, and it's actually not very competitive. So if you focus more heavily on the region and on those services that you offer within that homepage, then I think you'll rank quite quickly, especially from a local perspective.
No, that's great. Thank you.
No worries at all. But if you're stuck, I would, another good one to probably go down the route of speaking to a Nettle SEO studio if you're not in a proper SEO campaign. Get the structure done right. Get some homework on creating some copy, because creating content is often the most expensive area. And then you focus on what you do best.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on the content, so I'm hoping that's.
I just bring it forward. Your content is what we'd be looking for. The picture's beautiful, but yeah, I'd stick with the content. So we've got Evil Jetworks, and then we'll go into answering some questions then quickly before, and then any other websites left, we'll ping you an email. So Evil Jetworks.
Hello, that's me.
Hello, mate. How you doing? So we've got jewelry. Okay. So is this a type of pendant that people search for? So a Whitby Jet pendant, is that right? Or is that your brand? Just so I can understand this world.
Whitby Jet's the material, and then we create it and turn it into various pieces of jewelry.
So jet pendants and jet jewelry would be?
Yeah, specifically the stuff from Whitby is what we specialise in, so it is a.
Okay, so let's.
It's quite very niche, but there's quite a lot of competition for it.
Yeah, we actually do the work for H. Samuel and Ernst Jones, so we know the jewelry side quite well. Interestingly, engagement rings for H. Samuel brings them in about £500,000 a month in revenue. So it shows the organic money which is available from it.
Yeah.
So so I think you're here.
That's
at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you get much traffic from that at the moment, or?
I do look on. I do, because I've been following your workshops. So I've been watching on Google, on the Google search bar.
Google Search Console.
That's the one. It's crept up. The click-through rates clicked up a bit. Has crept up a little bit over the last couple of months. The page has been live about 14 months. So.
Okay, I would start trying to diversify out to some of these other key landing pages like antiques or gifts, and start creating landing pages for those phrases, because what we're seeing here is ultimately that Google is positioned you as number 2 for what I would say is a primary phrase. Now, what you want to do is build out your secondary and third tier of phrases. Right. So you already have your people also ask content being pulled through here. So I would create blog content relating to each one of these and build out your knowledge base to capture all of those niche searches, and then also target gifts as well. But you're already, a pretty good authority. So that's a really good starting position to be in. I would just continue branching it out now as best as you can, but Google's obviously seeing value in this already.
So put on, I think again, you recommended Yoast Premium, which we did put on, and it does make gives you more options, doesn't it? You have to do a lot more writing, but
yeah, this is the thing. But once you've done that writing, the thing that people have to understand is that that page may not need to be updated for 3 to 4 years after. Yeah. So it is really an investment in your website. By having that huge spread of content, you should never stop. It's ultimately something that every business owner needs to be investing in every day. And it's those ones who are going to thrive in this new future of digital that we have. And I think you're well on the way to doing that. If you haven't run a PPC campaign, then a really easy way to see what key phrases convert is get your conversion tracking set up. Target jet jewelry as a phrase match. Right. So that means any way that somebody searches jet jewelry, then they're going to click on through that, and then you'll know which keywords are converting. And then if it's keywords that you're not ranking for, then go and pursue those keywords first. Right. Because if you have 100 people searching for jet jewelry, only 20 of those are clicking on the ads, but you can get a much broader spread of target to see which ones are working. And then once you know it's working and you optimize for it, when you rank, you're getting 4 times the volume without having to pay for each click. So
yeah. One thing I'd recommend as well, David, just having a look at your site on my mobile, is what's the core, do you want people to buy on the website? What's the core objective of the site?
It's been a bone of contention for a while.
But all I was going to recommend is when you have a look at your site on mobile, on the homepage, there's no call to action, which is an action you want people to take above the fold. And by above the fold, I mean on my mobile, I've got an iPhone 11, but I can't see anything when I click on the site that suggests for me to take an action. And so so it's all well and good getting traffic to your site, but if people don't know, and I'm just talking about mobile users here, because they're probably a lot of the people that go to your site are on mobile. If people don't know what action you want them to take, then they're likely to bounce. So what I would suggest is on that homepage where you have responsibly sourced, certified Whitby jet, handcrafted jewelry in Whitby, have a little button just below that to say either shop now or contact us, or whatever your action is that you want people to take, because otherwise people aren't going to take action. So when we were talking about the analytics and tracking success of your website here, so I think you need to understand what is it you want people to do on your website and make people do that, and better optimize above the fold. So on mobile, before people scroll, having a call to action that says shop now and takes you to those pages where the jewelry is to buy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So yeah, I think you're doing a really good job, Dave. I think just keep on branching out the content, make the calls to action a bit more aggressive to try and get some sales. You know, if you're, what's your website built on?
It's WordPress.
Okay, if it's WordPress, there's some pretty good marketing plugins that you can use, like scarcity plugins, which says things like only one left in stock, buy now, just to try to drive people over the line. And if you're already getting some traffic, incentives like offer ending X date is a really good way to push conversions a bit more aggressively.
It's over £100, and there's one you can put on that says you've only got £32 left and you'll get free postage, things like that.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And they're free plugins. That's the beauty of WordPress and building with WordPress, is there's so much free available.
Good, yeah. Brilliant.
So, yeah, keep going, David.
Cheers. Much appreciated.
Okay, we're going to answer some questions now, and then the leftover domains, then we'll ping you a message. I get a lot of spam comments on my blog. Is this normal, and will it affect SEO? Yes, I would. If you're on WordPress, Andy, I would install a spam filter plugin, and that will stop that happening in the future. It won't necessarily negatively affect your SEO, not like 20 years ago when it was really, you know, rife a lot of spam, so I wouldn't worry too much. Apparently our site has lines too long for mobiles. What's a good length? Our page is Parent Voice would love analysis too. Parent's Voice will give you an individual analysis after this, and we'll ping you a message. But what's a good line length? I think you mean title length, maybe? What do you think, Liv?
I think it might be that you've done the mobile usability test, and that it's said that there's a line length too long, potentially. So we'd have to have a look at that, but I can pick up and send some analysis then after. Yeah, absolutely. I had a look at the site and it looked pretty good to me, but it might be that there's one blog or something on your site where the line length's too long. I would say, just looking at this, if it's is anything around parents, then answering questions is key. So creating as much content from also asked, and the good thing when it comes to parenting, there is no shortage of questions that are asked, and trying to become you know, a knowledge base for that is really, really important. Here's an example of having a call to action above the fold. So see our upcoming events, and then there was another one a minute ago that said sign up today. So that's really great because you'll be getting more sign-ups from that. Yeah, agreed. Right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There we go. Okay, so can you put up session 6? Yep, absolutely. We'll ping that over. Is it realistically possible to get on page 1 of Google just by organic unpaid growth? We'll have to pay for some boosting. No, it's 100% possible, Chris. You just need to invest time in it, and it really does depend on what the industry is. You know, if you're telling me it was online gambling, I'd be like, no, you know, you're not going to get there, because you know, I know companies out there who are spending nearly £1 million a month on content creation and paying off online advertisers. If it's a nice little niche, then 100%. You know, the small businesses can dominate the online space. You know, one of the first websites I ever optimized was for a company who sold its niche product, glass metro tiles, and we got them above Amazon within 3 months, and it made him a few £1 million a year, just selling glass metro tiles, and that was it. So the power of a niche product in an area from which has high footfall. Yeah. In Sue's question as well, one thing I will say, Sue, about the line length is that it could be that you have too long sentences. So readability is super important as well. So if your sentences are like, you know, 5 lines long and you're just using loads of commas, and it's quite difficult for people to read. So it might be that your content isn't very readable. You can use tools called Grammarly or Hemingway, which are really useful. If you copy and paste your content from your website, your copy into there, it will tell you this sentence is really hard to read, and it would recommend to reword the sentence, because readability is important. All of this stuff indirectly impacts SEO as well. Okay, and the website for Vanessa will ping you an email, Vanessa, and if you want to have a chat, then feel free after.
I am here, but we have done a microphone. We only sell and service Techo chillers as we are the UK distributor. Okay, cool. So Techo chillers, Caroline, we can ping you a message on that as well, and see if we can give you some pointers. But that should really be one that's easily nailed. It just needs some realignment. You know, it's the perfect one just to, in that scenario, probably just to pay either an agency or Nettle, just get on with it, because it's the type of thing that will probably deliver an ROI quite quickly for you, compared to some of these where it's going to be a lot more labor of love, investing a lot of time in creating content. Chris, CB states, we'll ping you a message on that one. Sandy, thanks very much. Analysis over. Yep, we'll do. So, yeah, Tracy, thank you. Interesting. Thank you, Tracy. We're going to be putting up more of these as well. And we may well look at doing a couple of just live question and answer sessions, and maybe booking a time and when we can answer some questions. Hopefully a lot of the things that we're answering will cover areas. Hi, thanks. It's a state agency, and most of the agents are on page 1 to be paid, or large corporate agencies. Okay, Chris, if it's estate agencies, mate, then I would focus at the local NAP listings, so the name, address, and phone number listings on the ABC of the map. Fastest place to gain some ROI. It's really, really easy to go and get a lot of good quality reviews from as many people within that local region that you're trying to serve as popular as you possibly can. Get those reviews posted, mentioning things like buying and selling houses and all the rest of that jazz. Incentivize those people where possible to leave reviews. That's the easiest way to make it happen. You want to make sure that your NAP is aligned. Follow a previous session for that, but that is basically your name, address, and phone number needs to be consistent between your Google My Business profile, your website, and all other directories online, which will be, yeah, really, really important. And then Karen, Chris, on that, if you want to ping us an email to seo@nettle.com or need any advice, then do let me know. And then Karen, for Lucent Financial Planning. Look, I've worked in the financial space for about 6 years now, quite heavily with the guys at Smith & Williamson and Rathbones. So it's one that I know well. From a local level, it works very, very well. If you're aiming for a national level, like some of these big players are now, then it's too competitive. You know, when you've got hundreds of partners creating content, it's just not feasible to do. I would focus on maybe looking into lead generation to get an ROI from it initially, and then move into other areas. With financial planning, things like will writing, for example, getting a lead in will writing can often open doors to a lot of other areas within the financial planning space. Looking at if you're just targeting financial advice, London, you're going to struggle. Go for something niche within the IFA space, get that as a lead, and then cross-sell them into other areas. Feel free to ping us an email on that, Karen, and hopefully I can shed you some more light as well. Yeah, we've pretty much run out of time now, but yeah, we really appreciate everyone's time today. Happy lockdown the second. We'll see you next time, and hopefully we can keep teaching you some new SEO tips.
I'll try and send through some tips on the websites. I've taken them down as well, so I'll have a bit of a look at them this afternoon.
Cheers, everybody. You take care now. Bye-bye.